I'm wondering if any of you feel the way I feel when I hear some of the advice that comes from, I guess, gurus in the motivational space, especially when they're talking to you about your job or corporate life. And one thing that I've been assessing a little bit here is that it may be someone that I like. This guy whose video we're going to look at, Simon Sinek. There's a lot of his videos that I like. Mel Robbins is another person who I like a lot of her podcasts. Some I had to check out on, which kind of connects to what I'm leading up to here. Sometimes I have a very difficult time listening to uh, non African American, specifically, uh, motivators giving advice for how to maneuver and how to survive and thrive in tough situations. And so a lot of it is work environment related. Some of it could be in other scenarios, but very specific to work environments, because what I find when I listen to some of what these people have to say, I often feel that they are giving advice that is too vanilla and does not often take into consideration how that advice doesn't quite flow the same if you're a part of a marginalized group. Because there was one podcast by Mel Robbins I was listening to, and I was looking for something to listen to in preparation for an interview. And just something to get me like hyped up, motivated, in the right headspace for this interview. So I turned to one of her podcasts. I forget the name of it. If I can find it, I'll put it in the description box of this live. But the video was with, I do recall it was with a Harvard professor. And what they were talking about and how they were talking about navigating corporate, how to navigate, how to present yourself, and how to, so much of what they were saying, um, to me, was frustrating. I didn't feel like the advice that they were giving would apply to me or most people who look like me. Or maybe better said is that I felt like the advice did not take into consideration that that advice isn't quite the same or can even be digested quite the same if you're in a marginalized group. So sometimes that is the challenge I have when I hear these gurus, especially white gurus, give like this corporate advice on how to navigate that space. It feels either out of touch with other experiences that are impacted by the group to which you belong, and it just seems too vanilla. And it's not everything that I hear from a white person who works in the motivation space. This, that isn't the case all the time. Sometimes it may be something where I'm like, okay, good, I can receive that, process that. That's good. I really like what that person said there. But I have found, and maybe this is just for me, so I'm curious to know if anybody experiences it differently. But for me, a lot of motivational, be it speakers, writers, gurus, in the corporate work environment space who are white, I I tend to feel like they are off the mark because they are giving advice that is first and foremost applicable to the majority population. And I can imagine someone saying, well, just take what you need and leave what you don't. Or I could imagine somebody even trying to tell me who's not of a marginalized group that I'm thinking about this all wrong, which is a non-starter. Because if you don't have my experience, if you don't live my cultural experience, you cannot tell me that my experience is not my experience, or the way I feel about something based on something culturally. You cannot tell me that I got it all wrong. So I thought I would take a look at this video and leave this here. I hope some people will watch it back, watch it in their own time, especially if anybody is struggling right now with a job you really dislike. Sometimes it's the company, sometimes it's the boss, sometimes it's the literal job, it's just a job you don't like doing. Sometimes it may be coworkers on your job. Sometimes you might even love your direct boss, but maybe it's management over their head that's causing a problem. There's a lot of stress right now, I think, with a lot of people for a lot of reasons when it comes to jobs, like tremendous amounts of layoffs. So I'm just curious to see, and I have not watched this particular video from this motivational guru, although I have seen his stuff. I've seen a lot of his stuff on TikTok. So he comes across, okay. But I wanted to just watch this one that caught my eye. What if you hate your job? To see, is this one that I look at through my lens, which is an African American woman, middle age lens? How does what he is about to say resonate with me? And especially if he's talking about tactics or things to do to navigate certain situations. I'm just going to see, based on everything I've already said to you, is this one that I might could watch and say, okay, that's good? Or is it another one where I'm just like, I can't really receive it because you're talking about this. You're not talking about this through a Black experience, and the Black experience in the workplace is different. Period. So anyway, let's take a look and see what his video talks about.
One option, if we hate our jobs, obviously, is to leave it. But if we actually,
Let's see.
one option, if we hate our jobs, obviously, is to leave it. But if we actually cannot leave our job for various reasons, the question is, what are we supposed to do? Be the leader you wish you had. Working at a hard job, working for a bad boss, can sometimes be one of the greatest educations ever. So the question is, can you change your mindset instead of waking up in the morning going, oh, I can't do this again, but rather view it as university. You're getting a master's degree in leadership, and you may be learning everything how not to do things. And to wake up in the morning and be like, what am I going to learn today?
Okay. Now, me checking out on that advice he just gave, this is not a cultural thing. I just think it's bad advice. I have worked long enough in different spaces where I could tell you I have known so many people over the years who literally got sick because of how they felt about their job. And if it's something where somebody say, okay, if I change how I think about it, like what he just said, it actually makes my day go by better, then fine, do that. If it works for you, it works for you. But I've just known too many people where they couldn't just shake it off, or they did not do that. And I'm talking about people who either got alopecia, people who high blood pressure and diabetes got worse, people who just maybe went into a deeper depression, those type of things. People who, all of a sudden got really, really sick, and how much stress impacted that. Nobody will ever really, really know for sure, but they know that stress does impact your overall health. That's not a secret. So I don't know. This feels a little Disneyland to me, what he just said about just, if you have a job that you hate, to just go in every day and just like, what will I learn today? And to say that in earnest and not sarcastically, I don't know. It feels like I don't know.
Early on in my career, I had a really bad boss who believed that she could get the most out of us by berating us, and she told me once that I had one of my reviews, and she said, "You have no talent," and I was like, "Nothing," and she was like, "Nothing." This was her way of, I guess, motivating me. Um, but I had such a good attitude about it for a couple of reasons. One, because I knew I knew what I was up against every day, and instead of taking it personally, I viewed it as my education of how not to lead. And I literally would file this stuff all away. And
Now, one thing I do like about the advice he's giving right now is that in what he just said, he's not saying that, oh, I knew when she said that I didn't take it personally. And I just started really thinking about, what I could do to make her think differently, or how might I change myself, even if I know I'm not doing anything to cause her to think that. How might I change myself so she can have a better perception of me? I'm glad he did not say that crap. Okay. I am glad that he's saying basically, if that's how that person feels, I know that I'm not what that person just said. I know that I have value, and to keep operating in that way. But yeah, because I've been through too many seminars and too many things where, people doing different personality tests. Let's do it as a team. And I've just been through too many of those things where I just feel like, yeah, that whole thing of, how can you twist and mold yourself to be perceived better in circumstances where the person is up against something for real that is beyond their control, or there's some kind of power dynamic, and the narcissist or the negative person actually has the power. I hate when people flip responsibility back to the person who is the target of that bad behavior. Uh, and there's a lot more that I could say there, but let's hop back into the video.
use it someday. I get to use it now. And also, misery loves company. I had a fantastic relationship with my team. We looked after each other because we all had this oppressive boss. We would compare the advice that we got in our little career building sessions, and we took care of each other. And so we had a responsibility to each other, and that's where we cut our teeth on being leaders. And it actually made the job wonderful. Yes, there were days that were oppressive. Yes, there were days that I hated. Yes, there are days that I wanted to pull my hair out and just quit. But it's because of the team that I had, and we looked after each other, and the mindset of learning every day that I made the most of it. So
Okay. The mindset of learning every day, I'm not anti that. I am also in support of what he said about uh, if you have a job you hate, or in this instance, he's really talking about a boss you hate. Sometimes your relationship with a team, like if and it doesn't have to be everybody on the team. If it's like one person or two people, but there's some people that you've built like relationship with, you're in community with when you're there at the job, it can be a lifesaver. It can be a lifesaver. Sometimes when people are deciding whether to even sometimes leave a job, they will base that decision in part on whether or not they want to leave. Maybe people that they just really love working with. So I do agree with what he just said about if you have a team that even if you all don't really care for the boss, the team really gets along well, or you even have like your group within the team where y'all get along really well, that can be very helpful in a situation where you really hate your job.
I think mindset is a huge part of actually getting some joy out of a difficult job.
Okay, so yeah, so this one is not one of those that I would end up having to turn off, even if I wasn't watching, even if I were not doing this for a live. If I had watched this on my own, I would have been able to make it through that whole video without turning it off, because I believe this is a guru who is not Black, who doesn't get it, and what they're saying is just rubbing me wrong. I did not get that from this video. So this is pretty good. I'm going to leave this video here, and as people come in contact with it, please feel free to leave comments, questions, and let me know if maybe even having these type of videos or these type of lives where people could even, either click the link or either just in the chat, talk about maybe something they're struggling with, especially in a work environment, a corporate environment, then we can do these lives. We can set them up like when you want to do them, and you could come in anonymously. You don't have to, like, of course, be on the video. This is not a Zoom meeting. You don't have to have a profile pic or anything like that, because I do know sometimes talking about things that are work related, especially if you are still working in the place that you're talking about, it can be complicated. And we don't want to do anything over here to put anybody's job at risk. But just let me know if that's something that you all will be interested in doing. Like I said, a lot of experience on my end in this space. So if I can be of service in any way and maybe share some advice, some wisdom, and of course, I'm also sitting here as a sponge, open and willing to learn from anybody else too. So it's a give. So just let me know what y'all think about it. Okay. Until the next time. Bye.